Well, I mean, they pay the most rent, so they get the most.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
And it's all good when the corn and bean prices are high.
Say 8 o'clock.
Okay,
You ready?
let's stand and do the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Public discussion.
We have a significant amount of discussion, but it's one of your agenda items. And I was hoping maybe we could discuss it at that point as a group instead of ahead of time, or how do you wanna do it?
I think it's on the agenda, so that would be fine.
Okay.
About the ambulance?
Yes,
Yes, that would be appropriate time.
all right, thank you.
Anything else for public discussion? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda and minutes dated July 18th, 2023?
So moved.
Second by Carter.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimous. Next thing on our agenda is quarterly reports to the auditor, recorder, sheriff, and veterans affairs. Take a minute and look through it. Any discussion on any of them? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve. That was Carter.
Yep. Second.
Josh? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimous.
Just those two?
Yep. Next thing on our agenda is to acknowledge the safety committee minutes. Everybody had a chance to read them? Anybody find anything to discuss about? Seeing nothing, let the record show that we looked at the safety committee minutes and the wellness committee minutes. Anybody have any questions on those? Let the record show that we acknowledge the minutes of the safety, the wellness. Discussion on supplemental insurance option for Global Life Family Heritage.
Is that guy gonna be coming
I
here?
thought so.
Okay.
Do we wanna?
We'll
Or
jump
just
over that
Okay,
until, cause there's not much to discuss until he gets here.
right, okay.
What called Nick?
Nick,
2:30 for the treasurer's report.
right. Next thing on our agenda is to approve the treasurer's annual report.
Hey Nick, we're up to treasurer's report, if you wanna come in. Perfect, thanks.
whoever put this in rotated, cause when we got the other copy and I'm sitting here trying to look at it, that neck got a little sore.
Ours came in right on the iPads.
You can do what?
You said yours is sideways?
Well, the other copy that we got
Oh,
was sideways.
Oh, from Nick?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the one that Nick sent out was
Yeah.
sideways.
yeah.
Yeah, when I scan them in, I turn them all, try to, once in a while I'll miss one, but usually I try to turn them right away.
Morning, Nick.
Good morning.
That's an awful lot of paper, Nick.
It's not that. Okay, well, I think you've all seen a copy of this, I did notice something that, kinda stands out is our beginning balance from, July 1st of 2022, $28,845,305.86, and our ending balance as of June 30th, 2023 is $23,679,852.91. That's over $5.1 million less, so, there's a lot of money went out, but there was a lot of that was earmarked to go out anyway, so.
Yeah,
Well,
a lot of that was secondary road.
yeah, that's what I was just gonna say, that we couldn't get equipment, and,
Yeah, I noticed that too. That's where it took the biggest, one of the biggest drops, so. But anyway, we, like in the past, you know, we have our beginning balance on our revenues for the year and total to be accounted for, and then total disbursements, and then the, funding and balance, and ending fund balances, for the year, and then it, has a list of the, auditor's warrants that are outstanding yet, so. And you've all had a chance to look at all that, so. Any questions on the revenues or disbursements that we can try to help you out with? Okay.
See, we're over 7 million on drainage.
Yeah, so over 7 million with stamped warrants, and we called in almost, or paid out almost 6.2 million, so it was an active drainage year for sure. Things like that, a lot of, receipts and disbursements, so, and, feel good about getting some of those warrants called in, and I know that one project, over on that side of the county into, that involves more than just Kossuth County, that was a huge one. A lot of that was able to be called in, so.
Yeah, pack one probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, PK one.
that's good.
And we'll have a lot coming in from FEMA for drain 4, so
Okay.
that should pull some of that down.
Right on, maybe.
That's about all I have.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, I had a chance to look at it, and things like that, see if there are any questions.
Yeah, well.
Okay.
Numbers are numbers.
Yep.
Anybody have any other questions? Would somebody, I'd entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's annual report?
I'd make motion to approve the annual report.
Second by Josh.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Do a roll call vote.
Nath,
Yes.
Wactor,
Yes.
Stecker,
Yes.
Jerks.
Yes. Thanks, Nick.
You bet, thank you. We'll get it published.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
You're next, Phil.
Morning.
to pay increase for 2 paramedics that have successfully advanced through their certification level.
So we have two paramedics took the critical care class and received their certification last weekend. So per our wage scale, there's a 50 cent per hour increase for the critical care paramedic certification for our staff. So I just wanted to bring that to you guys and get permission to increase those two people's wages by 50 cents an hour. Merlin Platt is one of them. He was hired in January, so he's still under the second step of the pay scale. So he would be at the $25 an hour. And then Jason Smith, the other one, he's been here, or he's been with the system for 3 years, so he'd be at the $26 per hour. So he's over 1 year.
I would entertain a motion to approve the pay increase.
That's already part of your pay scale steps, right? It's once you achieve certain certifications.
Yep.
Yes.
You get extra, okay.
I'd make motion to approve.
I need a second.
I'll
Josh?
second.
Or any discussion? Any questions for Phil? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimous. Next thing, Phil, you're still up. Emergency medical service transition agreement with Sioux City, Iowa.
Yeah, so we're still working on these agreements. A little history, we did have a joint meeting with Sioux City back on July the 5th. With our advisory council went up to Sioux City. We met with their council jointly. We did discuss through the concerns and issues we had with both agreements. A lot of it was just language and clarification on items between the two boards. We got that achieved that night. Both councils were pretty much in agreement. Everything was good to go. We did at that point take it to the attorneys to get their language input within the agreements to make sure we had everything correct for them. That was completed. Both attorneys have reviewed these documents, and both attorneys are okay with the language. Sioux City's actually passed and approved these two agreements. We had a meeting last night with our advisory council to come back with a recommendation to this board in the hopes of getting this stuff completed. They did approve, or they did make a recommendation to approve both agreements with the exception of item number 4 within the shared occupancy license agreement, which is the financial considered contributions. No agreement could be made. A lot of different things were discussed. Basically what they did was approve the language, left the financials out for you guys to make a decision.
Sioux
It'd be
City,
number 4 of the second agreement.
yeah, Sioux City approved the financial agreement as was written in here.
Correct.
Yes, and we were of the understanding when we left that meeting that the advisory council was under the same assumption and agreement. I have an audio recording of it. For some reason, all of a sudden, they changed it last night at 6 o'clock.
That was not my opinion at that meeting.
You were the only naysayer.
And
I have vocal agreement recorded.
I'm well aware of that, so do I.
Please let me finish. Of the whole advisory council agreeing to the terms that were outlined and discussed that night, which is, I believe, the agreement you guys have in front of you today. I've heard a number of concerns and excuses. This has not been easy for our community. It has not been easy for our council. Every time we've turned around, we've been asked to give. We have given. An example, they stood in front of the community and the city council and demanded the fund balance be turned over to them, which at that time was about $30,000, because they couldn't start up the county program without that $30,000. Our council and our ambulance service agreed to give them that money. A week later, they stood before you, Mr. Jarks, and asked you for an interfund loan for $400,000 plus, and you guys voted in $300,000 for startup costs.
Yes, we did.
I feel like it's just been one thing after another. They now, from what I understand, I don't know what the determination for sure was last night, but they want it for free. I can't sign an agreement that gives away a portion of our fire hall and puts that burden back on fire, and again, back on Sway City taxpayer to fund a county program. I've done some research. Apparently the county charges rent for the Algona police. Is that a correct statement? The Algona police building?
Law enforcement center.
The city.
Yeah, of about $14,000 you get back.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. We do.
13% of that is specifically for utilities. You're more than willing to accept money from a police entity who probably needs it worse than, or as bad as an EMS community. But when we come to you and say we want to charge you to rent spaces in our fire hall, a city-owned building, they're pitching a fit. Let's just be straight up. After they had verbally agreed to it, leaving that meeting, had they not agreed to it that night on the 5th of July, we might still be sitting around that table. My council would not have agreed to it, or we would not have assigned it, or approved it.
So it's, Phil, they did approve, the council approved it that night when they were meeting with Sway City?
The Sway City Council approved it.
Did,
The advisory council we had on our agenda as a discussion item. It was not a decision, but there was a consensus, I guess would be a better way to put it. But there was no formal motion made at that meeting.
But it was a positive consensus among all the members that were there. I believe only one member was not there. He was gonna call in. It was Dr. Larson, I think.
okay,
But, I mean, and we beat that around for 2 hours. Kyle was the only dissenting vote. Phil, from what I learned, Phil doesn't have a vote, but the rest of the advisory was in consensus that they were satisfied with the document, including the financials. I don't believe $5,800 or a little more than that is too much to ask to pay for the rental spaces. That's a year for the
no,
rental spaces in the fire hall.
there's no maintenance or anything else involved?
Well, we initially had maintenance and rent. Back in 19, I spoke to, I think you were the only member at that time, Jack.
No, I was here as well.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Jack was here too, but he's
When
on
we were
vacation.
deciding whether it would be in Sway City or where the Northern Help would be. And at that time, we said the fire hall facilities, Kossuth County will provide half the maintenance costs, insurances and utilities. So in part of the discussion on July 5th, they didn't agree that they should have to pay maintenance, that should be included in the rent. Or the insurance, that too should be included in the rent. So they agreed to, we initially had proposed 50% because that's historically what the ambulance is paid for that building. The fire chief and the council relented and went to 25% utilities because there's 8 vehicles in there, you guys got 2, or county will have 2. We then said, okay, so let's take the maintenance costs and the insurance costs and put it in the rent of the space, which was, I think it comes to $4,800 a year. Now, Chris, were you able to find the cost of a door?
Not per door, but I know that one estimate we had was about 30,000 to replace all 4.
So to replace all 4 doors, they're not cheap.
No.
Additionally, the concrete out front needs work. That was in the plan this spring. Because our fund balance was given to the county, now we've got to figure out how to pay for that. I'm pretty sure the counties, if I hit the county up with a bill of, I don't know, $6,500, they're not gonna pay it.
We'd look at it.
Huh?
We'd look at it before we paid it, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but why can't I just take it out of my fund balance of the ambulance? That was the intent.
Okay,
So what we had done, back to the original, is that we had rolled up the insurance and the maintenance in the rent and left it at 25% on the utilities that would be recalculated annually and adjusted quarterly, with the up and down of the utilities. Everybody was in consensus with that. Yes, the Sway City Council voted in approval, pending the changes that were in the document, consensus from the advisory board committee, and as I said a bit ago, it all blew up last night for some reason. I believe specifically because one individual doesn't want to pay the rent, and I think that's inappropriate. I think it's not supportive of a council recommendation. I would have to ask, what is the point of having an advisory council if they're not going to follow the recommendations?
I guess as I stated last night, the advisory council has a role in this, and I think a lot of the language concerns that we were initially having conversations over, those were taken care of, which was a successful piece of that conversation. But the financial side of things is the responsibility of those that are elected. That is why the final decision rests with the board of supervisors.
So it states that in the bylaws that, that supervisors could blatantly override an advisory council that they're depending on for information.
That is in the state law, that's not bylaws, that's state law that we set up the advisory council, but the final decision is with the board of supervisors.
And you can, it's hard to, I've been kind of quiet this morning. It's been hard to go through this when we've been trying to operate, you're trying to negotiate an agreement and trying to do something that's better for the county. You guys have an interest to the county, we have an interest to the city. So we've been trying to work really diligently to come together and come to a good agreement that works for everybody. And part of that, when you're going through a negotiation, is to operate in good faith. And when you verbally give your word to do something, I understand, Kyle, you did not. I listened to the recording last night at 9 o'clock at my office, and every single one of the advisory council members, besides yourself, that was in attendance, verbally agreed that they would move forward with the agreement if the agreement was knocked down $1,000, which we did. We accommodated to. We made that change to make things work. So then all of a sudden at the 11th hour last night, there's this big uprising. Something changed, something shifted. There was no heads up, there was no notice, and at the last minute, oh wow, now we don't go along with it. It's hard to move forward with someone that is not operating in good faith. They agreed. It's in the Sway City Herald, the guy that was even, for the press that was there, said that there was an agreement. It's hard to do that. It's hard to operate with someone, go through agreements with someone that you can't trust. Trust is broken. I'll throw it out there. I'll be blunt.
Trust was broken some time ago.
Just for clarification on my end, just so I'm understanding this all right, several years ago in 2019, when this was originally brought up, that the county, either verbally or written, I don't know, agreed to pay half of the cost of utilities, insurance, and maintenance, right? Was that what I'm hearing?
That was a proposal.
A proposal,
That was
okay.
not, that was
Okay.
not an agreement.
There wasn't an agreement.
Well,
written.
sorry, I used the wrong word there.
No, that's fine.
Proposal, and this is figured in that $4,800 of rent that we would be paying, correct? I mean, this is kind of a rough figure of what you guys had come up with.
Yes, for maintenance.
Right, and so, the council already approved this, and the advisory council, for the most part, is on board with this,
They were until last night.
okay,
Yeah, and that's actually 25%, the numbers we came to is,
sure,
it stated in the original, PowerPoint to the supervisors was 50%.
Okay.
Because historically, that's how that building was split.
sure,
But Sway City relented and came down to 25%. in the county agreement.
If I may speak a moment, when we first started working on the agreement, I think, we actually, just put figures out there, and we originally started with $9,400. And that all included property insurance, utilities, and rent. Since then, that was in May, since then in July, we reduced it in July to $7,100, which included 25% of the property insurance, 25% of the utilities, and then the $4,800 rent, for a total of $7,100. Then again, they came back and they didn't want the property insurance because they were renting it. So that's when we took off that $1,000 22. So now we're at $6,872. We ended up in the present agreement at $5,850. So I think we've done our due diligence in trying to accommodate and give. And not only that, I am a big proponent of not understanding why we have to give our $30,000 when there's other towns in this community, in this Kossuth County that aren't giving anything. And the comeback on that was, well, they're gonna pay the taxes. Well, so are we. But we're still being pushed to give our $30,000 in our ambulance account. So, there again, is that fair?
So
That's a valid point.
the dollar figures that you threw out, the multiple numbers that were discussed, when were those in agreements that were provided to us? Because I have not seen most of those numbers
Yeah, well,
ever. That's not information that was provided in good faith. And
The original agreement, stated $1,250 for, property taxes. It stated $1,050 for, actually it stated $2,100 for utilities, and the rent remained at $4,800. We then came down, where's your numbers?
that was
Yours are easy.
$7,100.
Yeah,
That was that one.
no, that was this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
It went to this one in July.
Yeah.
So the first one you would have saw was the $1,250, the $1,050, and the $4,800.
correct,
And then Sway City buckled and said, yep, you're probably right on the insurance and the maintenance. And we went to, we went to 25% at that point. And that takes us today to $5,850.
At some point, we have to come to an agreement, because we're gonna have to get along with Sway City, and this nitpicking, I don't think is doing anybody any good.
It's not doing us any good at all, because
No.
after this is all said and done, I have to come back and pick up the
Right.
pieces. I have to try to mend the issues with Sway City. Do you think I wanna send staff to a community we have a broken system with? Somehow we have to, we've been hashing these agreements for 2-3 months. It's time we put this to bed, it's time we move forward. I get Kyle's issue with the rent. I get Sway City's side, we need money to survive. We need to come to a working agreement. We need to pick up the pieces. My staff doesn't wanna go back to Sway City, they don't wanna go up there and have to deal with these issues. We need to put this thing to bed, we need to move forward and pick up the pieces.
I agree with you 100%, Phil, because the only way this system's gonna work is if we get along, and this here's not helping anything. That's my opinion, and to quibble over the difference between, it's about $500 difference between what Kyle wants and what you're offering. I see no object in arguing over it. You had a question, or?
I just was gonna touch on the advisory committee. I'm assuming the board appointed them. So I mean, these are people that you trusted throughout Kossuth County to make decisions and help guide you. And now you just wanna say, well, I don't agree with you, so we're gonna do this. You know, that's part about working together with the advisory board, is to get that knowledge. Sometimes I don't agree with what people say, but at the end of the day, if they're right, they're right. You know, Sway City, if the community's giving up $30,000, they're already giving you rough math over the first 5 years free anyway.
Yes.
I mean, they're covering the first 5 years, and there's no other community. How many towns are in Kossuth County?
12,
Incorporated.
12.
12.
Yeah.
So, you know, you put 30,000 from each one of them communities, what a big chunk of change that is. You know, it just seems to me like we're willing to do the big scheme things, but we're talking about 5,000 something.
Since we're addressing the fund balance difference, that was explained that it's a difference in the cities that are still running their service on a volunteer basis versus the ones that would be part of the countywide service. So it's not an apples to apples comparison of Sway City versus Ledyard or Lakota or anything like that. They're not operating the same way. That's where the fund balance comes into it. So just was going to try and touch on that briefly.
Well, and I can appreciate that, and we rolled over and gave you that money. Do I regret it? Yep. Yep, especially the next week when you came to here and took an interfund loan for a significant amount of money for the same reason you stood in front of my community, in front of my council, and said, we can't do this. We will have to push this to October 1st if we don't get your 30K. Our 30K was a smidgen under 1% of your whole budget when we look at reality. 30K to the community and to the ambulance service in Sway City is a lot of money.
And it is different, the ambulance services are different, you're right. When you look at Lakota and Sway City, they will be different. Is there a benefit part of the time? Yes. Does it have a negative impact part of the time? Yep, you're right. And I understand, especially when there's staffing shortages, and I'm not putting that on anybody. I just wanna be clear about that. It happens. Sway City has already been covering the other towns for how long? For years, we've been covering the northern end on our staff, thanks to our EMS staff that we have. Thankfully, they're very dedicated and hardworking and will run all hours to do that. We're very fortunate. But when there's not a medic, even when there is a medic, you're still calling Sway City people to go run. So where does that leave Sway City? So you can't sit there and say it's always 100% benefit all of the time. There's a benefit sometimes. Is there a negative impact? Yep.
If there's no further discussion, I would make a motion to approve the services transition agreement with Sway City, Iowa as presented to us. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Go ahead, Kyle, it's your-
Yeah, I'll second.
Kyle, you second? Any more discussion? Any discussion from Sway City or
Now,
comfortable?
just to clarify, this is the transition agreement, not the licensing
Correct.
agreement. And we're good with the transition.
Okay. Do a roll call vote, please.
Nath,
Yes.
Wactor,
Yes.
Stecker,
Yes.
Jerks.
Yes. Thank you. Next on our agenda is to approve Kossuth County Emergency Medical Services Shared Occupancy and Temporary License Agreement with Sway City, Iowa.
That's pretty much the discussion we've just had.
That's what we've been discussing.
I would make a motion to approve.
Did the antennas piece get taken care of so we
Yes.
can place the equipment?
Yeah, put your antenna up. Yep.
Okay, thank you for taking care of that.
Do I have a second to that motion?
And that's to leave it as stand with number 4 including.
Right.
Okay.
You made it. Oh, I'll second.
Carter makes second. Any discussion on the motion? Do a roll call vote, please.
Nath,
Yes.
Wactor,
Yes.
Stecker,
No.
Jerks.
Yes. 3-1. It carried. Anything else, Bill?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. One quick comment. I have another staff member that we're looking at, going to paramedic school. We do have that in our budget, for education, for training purposes, we do make them sign an agreement that they will, run with the service for X many years after, completing the course. Do I need formal approval from you guys to do so? First question. Second question, is that something I need to wait until after October and we get tax money in, or can I get her started?
My opinion is no, you don't need formal approval because it's for the good of the ambulance system. Anybody else have an opinion?
What's the dollar amount or ballpark?
Over the course of the year, probably 6,000.
Then
2
yes,
years, 2 years,
Wait.
sorry, 2 years.
should have approval for that dollar figure.
And when would that, bill come in? Would that come in after?
It comes in
October?
per semester,
Per semester, so
Correct.
when would she
so
start?
it'd be this fall
Okay,
semester. And then,
You'd pay it as you went.
yeah, it's,
Okay.
it's semester.
Hey, okay.
She's also applying for grants and some other tuition items, so
is that 6,000 per semester?
no,
or
that would be
6,000
for the full term.
Okay,
It would probably be good to bring it, just
yeah,
because it's over 5,000.
As I get more info put together, I'll get that put together, we'll present it and.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming down, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming in, appreciate it.
Is that the guy for insurance?
Oh, I didn't even see him.
Yeah, he came in. Were you here for insurance?
Yes,
Okay,
Okay, we'll go back to that.
yep, we're ready for you.
okay,
You wanna come on up?
Yeah,
okay.
You're from Global Life?
What's that?
Global Life?
Global Life Family Heritage, yep.
Yep.
I'm Garrett Wilson, and I've been in the Eldona area for about a year and a half now, working over here doing business. North Idaho Mechanical, Eldona Plumbing and Heating, Snap-on, Meyer Home Improvement are some of the businesses I've helped. What separates us from our competition, the Aflacs Combined Washington Nationals, we do a return of premium. So if you don't use it, we give that money back to you. We have national visibility. You'll never see us on a commercial. What we do with that money instead is that's how we're able to give it back to folks. Or if you were to pass away, that money goes to your beneficiary, so it doubles down. We have a lot of success when we talk to the younger crew, 25 and younger. We see a 70% enrollment rate when we come in. We go through the benefits. I'm from the Clarion Eagle Grove area. I didn't really understand how to use Aflac when I had it. My mom had Aflac when she was diagnosed with colon cancer. She has the rag on the side yet. Cancer, accidents, heart and stroke are the main policies that we sell. And your guys' for the county, a lot of the county roads is gonna be the accident plan. So comparable to prices as far as what these guys are paying for premium. And I guess I don't know the whole idea of coming, other than to get in front of you guys and let you guys know, throughout this area within a 40 mile radius, over 100 businesses that we've helped in this area. We don't require a certain amount of people. So people like what Snap-on loved, because they have never had a supplemental program. And what they loved is that we don't have to go through payroll. So there is no incentive for, a group. It's gonna cost you the same as an individual as it is 30 people signed up. It's a life insurance supplemental, the Dallas Cowboys, Texas Rangers. Like I said, we just don't advertise. That was pretty much it. She said I got a 2-hour block if you guys want me to keep going. I'll talk forever. Just kidding, she did not say that.
so there's no minimum number of employees, anything like that, it's just an offer, so to
Yep.
speak.
And it's really, I'm not here to come in and, cancel like anything. Like I said, my mom had Aflac, so I don't think that's Aflac back. But when you compare policies, we pay out 2 to 3 times as more on their benefits. I just sat down with Jack's Tire yesterday and going through that with him. So
I'm actually, when I leave here, I'm gonna be talking to him. There's tons of more businesses. I got lost, I didn't get lost on my way here, but through this building, so I apologize. But yeah, I have family over here as well. It's just been awesome since I've come over here. I'm the only one in the area that can offer this, also along with what we call a champ plan. It's a wellness program. But usually I save that for later, just because the enrollment on that, it's a little more, you know, gets in the weeds as far as if people want to sign up. For the employer, they save tons of money. It's $573 guaranteed per employee that signs up with this champ plan. And it's a wellness program, so it falls under tax code 125, meaning it's a pre-tax dollar. It puts more money into individuals' pockets if they make a certain amount of money. It's what everybody's going to. There's only one way to make health insurance cheaper, and that's to make us more aware of our preventative stuff that we can do. You know what I mean? So the kicker there is that they have to watch a 2 to 5 minute video, whether they want to quit smoking, drinking, lose weight, gain weight, put on muscle, whatever they want to do, they have to watch that 2 to 5 minute video. Whether they do or not, we don't really care. It's been proven to work. But you watch that video, that's what cues that trigger of that money going into their account. It's an employee funded, but like I said, and I'm just, like I said, how I got doing this, I was a weld supervisor at Hades for about 8 years. John Deere bought us out. So we parted ways. They wanted me to go back to college. I said, guys, I got 4 kids, 1 daughter, the reason for my gray, and what she just turned 16, I'm going bald now. I never thought I'd be doing this. And they just reached out at the right time. So I feel like I got lucky because my mom was going through cancer at that time. I know exactly what my family went through. If you look at cancer in Iowa, it's a giant red dot. So there's hereditary stuff there, you know. But I tell people not to play with fire when it comes to cancer. You guys see the GoFundMe's up all the time, right? Convenience stores, Facebook, why do you think people hang those up? You know, they need help with all that, all those indirect costs that most people aren't familiar with until it happens.
So this is a supplemental?
Yes. So,
and then, are there cancer riders that you have to add? Do those all kind of come separate as additional, or is it, you know, kind of an umbrella?
Yep, so we have individual plans, family plans, single parent plans. In Iowa, there's a common law marriage, so we take the youngest person. So, you know, you've been with your wife for 3 years, but you guys aren't technically married. You are in our world. You're 35, she's 25, way to go. We would take her as a policy holder, right? When you break down the policies and you get into it, example, Aflac. So if you had a family plan with Aflac, you fall down, you're the policy holder, you fall down, you break your leg, they're gonna give you $5,000 for you, right? Your wife falls down, she's on the same plan, your wife falls down, breaks her leg, they're gonna give you $4,000, for her, $4,000. The child, $2,500. With us, a leg's a leg, we don't care what family member it did, right? We're gonna give everybody the same amount of money.
Okay.
So when you even break it down further, like I said though, I've done a lot of self-educating just because, one, I never did this, one, I had to get my license, but then I really want to understand because you hear some of the horror stories behind it. There's just a lot of cool things about our program. Your premium stays locked in. I don't feel like people get excited enough when I say that. Because with any type of insurance, it usually goes up with your age or with claims. With us, it stays locked in for life. Same with our whole life. So, I mean, my goal was really just to get in front of you guys. Would love the opportunity to help, you know. Aflac does things we don't do. The short-term, long-term disability. Like I said, my goal is not to come in and say, we're better and cancel what you have, come with us. That's not the goal at all. This will pay in addition to. You can collect on both if you wish. I would say that we do pay alongside workman's comp as well. I had a claim, just to give you an example of a claim payout. Trent Mitchell, he wrote me a testimonial. Wow, I'm able to share this, and then I'll get out of your guys' hair. He works at Sunrise Housing. He takes a half a home, and he puts it together. He fell off a 10-foot ladder. He was off work for 2 months. Through our benefits, that hip is the second largest bone in the body. He's a 40-year-old guy. He pays $78 a month for his individual accident plan. That's at our elite level. Nobody can touch us at that. We created it just to be the biggest and the best. So he fell off that ladder, I think he made 2 monthly premiums, now this will rarely happen. But he fell, broke his hip, spent 3 days in the hospital at $800 a day, each day confined. That adds up pretty quick. It was $16,800 that we paid him out. He was off work for 2 months. You can see how that money, came in handy. It was actually right at Christmas time as well, so. He actually called and said, hey, are you sure this is right? I just got about 17,000 directly deposited in my account. I'm like, yep. So that's what makes my job easy is when I hear those stories. I'm working through 2 cancer claims right now. I was fishing and the lady called me and she goes, I don't know what, or no, I'm so thankful you just stopped by this day. I'm an emotional guy, so we both started crying and it was awesome, but.
You guys have like, pre-checks and stuff like that before approval. So like if they're, someone that is a smoker, things like that. I actually used to sell Aflac years ago, so
Awesome.
I'm kind of familiar with the whole supplemental side of things.
Right on. So, to answer your question, great question, we don't dive into the smoking, non-smoking part of it, your weight. On the supplemental side, on the whole life, super easy. Like I said, it's all we do though, you know what I mean? So you become very good at it. For the cancer, have you been diagnosed with cancer in the past year? Are you waiting on any results from the doctor in the past 90 days? Yes or no? I talked to about 25 people in a day. Out of those people, probably 15 I can't help because it's, where were you 2 weeks ago? Where were you 3 months ago? That type of stuff. But it's fairly easy to get qualified, yes. Yeah, it's just, it's a cool program, so. Any questions?
I'd be interested in
Oh, awesome.
more on it, just
Yeah.
get some more
Yeah,
information.
absolutely.
I do have some employees also that, have been having issues with Aflac with customer service.
Yep.
So they have expressed interest in listening to.
That was one thing that I heard when I actually worked with Aflac was that there was a lot of issues with customer service
They have a high turnover rate, so I hear that a lot of time, that they don't. The other cool thing is if we go through business, we don't eat up a renewal time. Meaning, if I came in today, right, and signed all you guys up, right, and then 2 weeks later, 3 more people you hired. Those 3 more people have to wait that whole time until they can, to that renewal time, right, to get signed back up. Call us, we'll come in anytime, but we don't have to eat up the clock every single year to sit down with every single employee. Once you're enrolled, you're enrolled. And then if you have a new hire, I'm glad you brought the customer service thing up. So this is #1 in customer service the past 2 years, Family Heritage. And I say Globe Life Family Heritage because I'll just be straight up with you guys. Globe Life partnered with us and they, Liberty National, Family Heritage, and AIG, I believe. So I'll go into a business and be like, oh, we already have Globe Life. And I'm like, well, who? Because we're the best. And obviously I'm biased, but I've been with the same company going on 4 years. Like I said, I feel like I just got lucky. And plus I was a huge Cowboys fan. I'm like, are you kidding me? You guys gonna send me to a Cowboys game? But yeah.
So on our agenda, it's just got discussion. Is there anything that we need to put on our agenda next week or later to allow that to be offered to employees or? Okay, that's what I was thinking, so.
I guess, is there enough support to put it on the agenda at a future date?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Carter?
I don't know what all the employees are thinking, but it sounds fine to me.
Cause I mean, it won't impact anything else we offer Aflac or anything else.
Yeah, it's not like we have an
taking that option
agreement with
away.
Aflac that we can't.
Another option.
It's a choice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Choice
free choice,
employees.
just
Free
all.
choice employees. And that's what I tell people is too, is, because a lot of times business owners will say, well, I'll ask and see if they're interested, and I always say, well, I can tell you how that's gonna go. Hey, are you guys interested in some insurance? You know what I mean, like, let me do my job, and. Yeah.
It gives people a chance that if they are happy with Aflac, they've got another option to go to instead of just dropping their supplement altogether.
Or if they want another policy on top of it, I mean, it's, yeah.
Out of Jack's, he had 10 people, and he has 3 locations, Jack's Tire. You know, and I just thought, wow, because, you know, out of all them people, like, I don't know how they do it or how they go through, but I tell them, like, the first time we meet, we go and I sit down, so if I were to come and talk to your folks, right? I come and do a quick demonstration, a 10-minute demonstration, and I say, this is what I do, I'll be in the break room, this is what it's about, quickly, if you wanna come now. If I come through, it's everybody, because what happens is somebody finds out, well, how come I didn't get offered this? So even if they don't want it, they have to sign, like, saying, hey, I just don't want it, don't even, it's not for everybody, so that's fine. But explaining the benefits and how they work is super important, because that's how you get paid.
We'll put it on the agenda for August 8th. Is that fine?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. You'll be on the agenda August 8th.
Okay.
Thank you,
Just get
Mr.
an email
Wilson.
or something? Is that how it works?
What's that?
Just get an email saying that, or just come back on August 8th at the same
Just
time?
come back.
Okay, awesome, cool.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much, Doug. Yep. Josh. Kyle.
Nice
Thank you very
meeting you.
much. Roger. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Tim. Thank you guys very much, seriously.
Don't forget the card.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is a dash body camera, and Derek, your name is on it?
Okay, so I've been working with Roger quite a bit here this last year, trying to come up with a solution for dash cameras and body cameras. This last year, we didn't replace any, and what we've got going on is that our current system is, the current model we have is being discontinued. And part of that is, we have a product from WatchGuard Video, it's called, and about 2 years ago, they got bought out by Motorola. Well, when they transitioned to Motorola, of course, the prices started increasing, and they also went to a service-based model where in order to get any support, you have to pay a contract for every device that you have. And so we tried to push that out as far as we could. And we're getting to the point now where our other equipment is starting to fail. So we get about 6 years out of body camera and dash camera before they start to crash. To try and buy us another year to find another vendor or look at alternatives, we replaced a couple with used pieces of equipment to try and push that out as much as we can. Now we're at a point where we've got equipment failing again, and we're due for a refresh. In the past, we bought 2 or 3 full setups a year, and we're looking for approval to do that. Now, since we can't buy the old model, we have to buy the new model. Well, in order to buy the new model, we have to upgrade our server as part of that. And so we've got 2 proposals in front of you. One is for the server side of things and the licensing and software service contract. The other is for 3 full setups for equipment. I didn't provide the board, but I can, an alternative quote from Panasonic, which was even more expensive than this. There was another $2,000 per car on top of what you're already looking at. So 3 years ago, we looked at Digital Ally, which is another vendor, and they were as much as Panasonic, if not a little bit more. So I would propose that we stay with what we have, do the 3 cars this year, and do the server upgrade as well. And I think that's what Roger and I kind of come up with as the best plan to move forward. So,
just to give you some background, we're in a situation where the courts, judges, prosecutors, they pretty much mandate that we have to have video on our cases. Whether it's a traffic stop or an investigation, or the first question that they get from defense is, where's the videos? And if you don't have it, then we risk losing prosecution or losing cases without it. So as Derek mentioned, we've been, on the budgetary side of it, when I got elected in the sheriff, our equipment was there, and it was basically purchased when we started cameras. I think it was probably 8, 9, 10 years ago that we started putting camera systems in our patrol cars. I know I've been here 36 years, and I just got a camera in my patrol car as a deputy about 5 years ago. So they started to implement this, and with 12 units, we've got 11 patrol units and a reserve unit. It's impossible to do this all in 1 year. Budgetary wise, when you're looking at probably $8,000 per, $7,000 to $8,000 per unit. So we're gonna try to do the 3 that we just purchased that we're setting up right now, and then try to come up with, do a couple more next year and a couple more the following year, so that we don't have the same situation lifespan of what, 6 to 8 years? So we aren't 6 to 8 years from now, we aren't looking at purchasing 12 more again.
So that's why I asked Derek to do the research on it and find us the best, program to go with, and it seems like WatchGuard is still probably the best option. Questions?
Did you guys look at, I think it's Axon?
We did not look at the Axon product, no.
Okay.
Well, let me rephrase that. Panasonic sold the arbitrator system to another company now, which would be a similar line, but, we didn't get pricing on that. But the two other alternatives we got were even more than this. And the other part of that is, we already have the server set up for the WatchGuard system, so when the guys roll up to the sheriff's department, it wirelessly uploads to the server. And so having two systems is a pain. We already kind of deal with that with the police department, where they're moving to WatchGuard as well for all their new cars. They've got Digital Ally on the old stuff, and so they've got two separate pieces of server equipment that we're trying to consolidate into one. So on the server upgrade, they will pay a portion. I think I've got 3 cars over there now that will pay part of that server upgrade as well. So we're trying to consolidate that and reduce costs.
So in our folder, we got $27,812.
And there's another
And
one
then
too.
12,
Yeah.
Correct.
And then,
And the PD will pitch in a portion of that 12. I don't have the exact percentage in total, but I will send them a bill for their portion once we get approval here.
So that 12 is just more for the licensing side?
Correct. We're going from Evidence Library 4 to Evidence Library 5. It goes from a Windows server to a Linux server, but the virtualization hardware is the same. We're not doing any upgrades on that. And it includes the licensing, software support, and the data migration as well.
So the one thing on there that kind of got a question on was the mobile video deployment services. It has a quantity of 5,000. What is that?
That's the actual server install, so that's them doing the installation of that product.
Okay. I just thought it was interesting that they had a quantity of 5,000 there.
and $5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it should be the other way, 1 and then 5,000 for the list price. I don't know why they've got that backwards.
Okay,
It
it
is
just jumped
5,000.
out at me
Yes.
like, you know, what are we paying
Yeah.
5,000?
No.
5,000 bytes.
Yeah, it's a data transfer or something like that, but yeah.
well, it's got it listed, it's a list price of $1.25 and sale price of $1, so did they give us a 25 cents off, or? I mean, it wouldn't be 25% because the math wouldn't. I don't know.
Well, it's in the $12,075, so.
Yeah, it's in the total, but
Roger, you got any questions on any of this? You satisfied with it?
No, yeah, I'm satisfied with it, we didn't budgetarily plan on doing all of them in 1 year is gonna be the issue, so that's why we're only gonna do 3.
Yeah.
It would chew up way too much of my motor vehicle budget if we did all 12 of them in 1 year. It would take over 50% of my budget.
Right.
yeah.
So we're gonna just try to get by with 3 this year, and then each year we order a patrol vehicle, we'll try to incorporate this cost into it.
So these go
Is that
into
kind of
the,
plan we talked about, Rick?
Yeah,
these go into the 3 new patrol vehicles?
Yes.
we're trying to do 2 or 3 a year, get back on that rotation. We skipped last year. But like I said, the old equipment is really starting to fall apart now. The body cameras, they take a beating. They, you know, on, off, you guys are getting into tussles. They don't hold up as well as the dash cameras. And again, the dash cameras are starting to fail.
Did you guys look at any grants or anything like that? I know that there are some grants out there to help with like equipment and stuff like that. I can't think of the name of them right now, but.
We do get a $1,000 ICAP grant, which we can apply for this year. I've applied for that every year since I started.
But that's only gonna help a small amount, but.
Right, yeah, it's $1,000, you know,
Yeah.
better than that, so.
So if I added correctly, the total's 39,887, does that sound right?
Say that again.
$39,887.
Yeah, whatever the
Yeah,
28.
add the two together,
Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
Did you guys subtract the PD share?
and then,
Yeah, and I'll send them a bill for a couple thousand on that, so.
So
if you could
it'll
approve-
still be in the total.
Yes, if you could approve the total here, and the project moving forward, then I will send them a bill and I can give you a total on what their portion
Okay.
is.
and then that'll just go back into Rogers.
However you guys want to deposit it, I don't care.
Okay, I'm assuming that's what,
it doesn't, it'll go back in the general.
it'll go
Just
back into general?
fund.
Okay,
That's, I think it's what we do with all the grants.
okay. Any other questions? I would entertain a motion to approve,
I'll make a motion to approve.
second by
I'll second.
Josh. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimous.
And just a little background for you guys, what I'm finding out on patrol vehicle, it took us 14 months to get these last 3 vehicles from the time we ordered till they're delivered. So I may be back to you in the next month or two, looking at purchasing 2 more, knowing that we may not get them till next summer. But that's just the trend right now. Every police pursuit package we're looking at,
We're about ready for it.
it tells us, you know, we're
Thanks.
looking 12 to 14 months out. So,
Yeah, you got it in your budget anyhow.
yeah, that's what I mean, that's what we did this year, we ended up paying it in June, and the cars weren't delivered till July,
Yeah.
but we got it taken care of, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Gary. Thanks, Roger.
I called him, he's coming up.
Anybody need a break now or later?
I, he just told me Doug up.
Okay,
Yeah, like,
you wanna take 5-minute break, 4 minutes?
I don't need that, but yeah, that'd work.
whatever works.
I can imagine.
We'll take a 3-minute break.
Morning, Dick.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm so far great. I haven't met that one asshole that pissed me off, but he might show up here in a minute. Oh, sorry about that. You're still recording.
Yeah, we're still in our meeting, even though we're on break, but. We did have, oh, go ahead. Sure.
I was just saying, it looked like you had a pretty good turnout at Farm Bureau.
Excellent. It was a perfect night.
It was
Yeah.
beautiful night.
I think we ran out of corn because a few people, I saw a husband and wife, they each took 3 years, which we don't have a problem with. We had enough for everybody to go through the line once, and no, it was a great turnout. Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Doug.
Few of us decided to take a break here.
I met him down there.
Oh, what was that? The Iowa State. Okay, yeah, I set it up there, I haven't.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
We got a thing a little while back from Iowa State. I didn't realize that our farm down by Laverne was an Iowa State farm back in the 1800s or whatever, and that's what it was bought from. Kinda interesting.
Okay.
Darn it.
We're here in January. My New Year's resolution is to give up allergies and if it works.
Try again next year.
No,
What are you giving up?
Allergies.
Oh. Hey, how's your wife doing?
Sorry, I'm coming.
Good.
Good. Get Nancy.
when did you do?
Early November or late October, depending on how soon she wants to come.
Next thing on our agenda is a discussion on 165th Avenue between 250th Street and 260th Street. And Doug Miller, you are the contact person on this item, so
Yes, I
take it away.
put this on the board's agenda. Last week, the board made a motion to direct the county engineer and the county attorney to look into classifying 165th Avenue between 250th Street and 260th Street as a Class C road per the Iowa Code 30957. Kossuth County does have an ordinance on establishing level area service level C roads. And I did provide that to the board, and it was also in, well, I guess I did provide it to the board. I also provided it to County Attorney Holmes. So I thought it just had to start some discussion here. And this should also be in your electronic folder. There you go. So this is kind of a location map showing ownership of the properties. 250th Street on the south side, 165 is in the middle, and then 260 Street is on the north end. It's a 1 mile stretch of road that runs in the middle of section 15 of Plum Creek Township. You can see where Bill Grangenet is the owner on the west side of the road. On the south side, the estate of Ed Miller would be the owner on the east side. Dick Miller lives in his house right here and has real estate. Greg Elbert has real estate on the west side. Shirley Young, her estate, life estate, has interest in that piece of property. Ed Miller, again, on the east side of the road. Dick Miller has property to the east, and there is a house or cabin and pond. And then Brian Miller and others have property on the east, and then Shirley Young has property on the west. I also included videos, and I'll go ahead and play this and kind of go through. This is from the south end of the road going north. And you can see that we do have 2 road closed signs. These videos were taken last Wednesday. at the entryway, go into there. This would be Grand Jeanette property, Ed Miller on the right. There is a field entrance here to the west. I believe that goes into Greg Albert's property. And then there is an entrance to the right, to the east into Dick Miller's home residence. And then we have a sign, bridge closed, bridge out, and the road down to the bridge. I am not aware of any entrances to property on this stretch of the roadway.
There is one.
Where would that be at, Dick?
You'd be getting close to it. There's a big tree down here. It's the only access we have to pass the oxbow of the creek to get to the property north of mine. Right about there is the lane, right there, you can see.
Okay, there is a property, there is a lane there. And here's the barricade and sign at the previous bridge's location. And then there is a video from the north, no snow removal. I'm sorry, I don't know if that bridge road closed ahead or something like that there. This would be Young Life Estate, Brian Miller. Going down through here.
Is Brian a relation to you?
My son.
That's your son, okay.
My son and 3 daughters own that property.
I think there's an entrance right here into that Young Estate, Life Estate property. There is a driveway right there that goes back to the Dick's property out to the east. And then this would be going down to the bridge. There is an entryway right here into Young property. There is an entryway to the east, to the left here, for the Ed Miller property. And then there is an entryway at the bridge to the Greg Albert property. And again, we have a barricade. We do have some trees in front of the signs there that need to be removed. So. So that's kind of the ownership. I also provided just some options for that road, 165 Avenue in Section 15, Plum Creek Township. There is do nothing, leave the road as is, cut brush, replace some signs as needed, maintain a barrier rail as needed. Pros and cons of this. There'd be no changes for anybody, and cons would be, again, there'd be no changes for anybody. We could classify that, the Board of Supervisors could classify it as a service level C road. We'd follow the ordinance, fix a time and date of a public hearing. We'd publish and send the notice out to all interested landowners, and it'd have to be published in our newspapers, official newspapers, hold a public hearing, determine if the proposal is practical, and if it is practical, pass proper resolution. Pros, minimal maintenance for Kossuth County. access is limited to those people who should be on the road. Cons, county retains jurisdiction of the roadway. And then, also put in there vacate the road. We could follow the Iowa code, very similar to establishing a level C. The pros for Kossuth County on that would be that the jurisdiction of the road is completely removed from Kossuth County and given back to the adjacent landowners.
Doug, I know on that document you didn't have any cons listed for vacating the road, but from our previous discussion, would that not limit access for Greg Albert?
I was looking at a view of Kossuth County.
Would that not be something we would have to address?
It could be addressed, certainly. Again, I was looking at it in the view of Kossuth County. I mean, we have addressed situations like that with easements for people to drive over other people's property to get to it. We've created deeds in road vacations so that property was handed from one landowner to another landowner. We've assisted in those types of things.
I guess one other thing I wrote down, with the signs from both directions saying the road is closed, when was that action taken by the board to close the road?
Probably when the bridge was taken out, my assumption.
Yeah, that's what I would guess, but I didn't know what time frame that was or when that was.
It was discussed on February 23rd of 1999.
February 23rd of 1999?
Yes.
Okay. Was it just discussed at that point?
It
or
was
that's when-
discussed. The board did not choose to permanently close the bridge, but instead decided to put the project in the last year of the 2005 program. There is a history. Richard Sheik, who was county engineer at the time, wrote a letter to the board of supervisors, and I can certainly provide that letter to the board. It's dated September 8th of 2008, and it does give a history of what had went on from 1974 to 2008. And I'll email that.
That would be great.
Oh, Richard, go ahead.
Okay, as I said last week, and we said I don't wanna class C the entire road. I just wanna go from north of my lane, where the grass starts, where the road's been abandoned, to right where a barricade with the tree on the north side. That's just on the other side of Greg Albert's property, which would allow him access. The road can stay the same, class C it in between, so I can put a crossing on the road where the old bridge was. I've tried to get a crossing on that ever since they busted the bridge down.
I got a question for you in regards to snow removal, is if we put a fence there or gate, would that cause an issue for removing snow, or would you be able to assist with blowing that out with your equipment, or how?
Where the gates would be is farther than what the maintainer goes now. He usually goes past my lane, backs into my lane, and then goes back outside. The gates would be farther north than last year he got past where the gates would be, and he went down the hill, and he was down the hill for over 2 hours. Because there's no gravel, and he couldn't get traction to back over it again. But the gates would be farther than he ever goes forward maintaining snow.
if we ever got into a situation where there was a huge amount of snow, would that be a possibility where you could help out with a snow blower or anything?
That's what I.
Light duty,
Because I take the snow blower most years and go down that hill.
Okay.
And we sled on the road, I leave it about that much snow, that way we got a nice bank on the sides, and it's our sledding hill, yes.
just wanted to process that as a potential, operational issue.
The legislature did change where level C roads could begin and end. And they did define access point. I do not have that definition. It's in 306.19. But paragraph 3 of 309.57 does talk about
309 point what?
309.57, paragraph 3 does talk about where level C roads can begin and end. And I'd have to review that and talk a little bit with Todd about that as well.
Corn Belt's got a 161 line that runs along there. I'm sure they have an easement through those fields. It'd rather be prudent to have a little input from them, because they're gonna have to maintain that 161 line no matter what you do.
Yeah, they would definitely be one of the interested parties.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I found it here, an area service C classification shall apply to the entire portion of a road between the road's access points. The supervisors shall not classify only part of a road between the road's access points or only a bridge on the road as area service C. This subparagraph does not apply to a road that terminates at a dead end. For purposes of this subparagraph, access point includes but not limited to a driveway as defined in section 306.19.
Can you print off that quick? Yeah. Or, I don't know what printer.
Todd give you an opinion?
Pardon me?
Did Todd give you an opinion?
I've not visited, I've not had the opportunity to visit with Todd about this.
Okay. Cause what you just read kinda says we have to do the whole road, is that?
Well, no,
No,
it's
it
not, it
says-
is not the whole road, but it defines access
Portion,
points.
shall
I'm not
apply,
familiar.
yeah, shall apply to the entire portion of a road between the road's access points. And further on down it says, for this purposes of the subparagraph, access point includes but not limited to a driveway as defined in section 306.19.
But there are no access points from the point I'd like to put the first gate to the last gate, other than my own. There are no other landowners that have access points in the last 30 years between those 2 points. So I don't think if a guy.
So basically it would be from, access point on your property.
Yes.
Going to your property, across the bridge.
Yes.
To the other side where you have access to another part of the property.
Well, Greg Albert has an access point just ahead of that barricade with a tree.
Okay.
So I would want the gate south of that barricade.
Okay.
That way I do not, there's no access points off of that into any other landowner's property. That closure would only affect me.
Okay.
Am I to assume then that you wanna leave the barricades across the road?
No, we just take those out and put a gate. Cause that's what a level C says. Greg Albert.
So the barricades down by the river itself would come out.
Yes.
But there would be a gate in.
The gate would be
Further
farther
back. Yeah.
Probably
So-
maybe 6 feet behind where the barricade would be.
One other thing I did see on that though too, the signs need to be posted to indicate limit of weight. Would that be posted by the secondary roads or
They
would that
can't,
be posted
they
by the
can't
owner?
trespass, they cannot go past my gate or they are in violation of the trespass law. Nobody's gonna be using my bridge or
If it's
whatever.
I believe Kossuth
Okay.
County will have access, they continue to have jurisdiction on Level
Yes.
C Road.
Yeah.
Kossuth County will have jurisdiction.
I guess,
Again, and I've stated it before to the board, if there is a bridge, if there is a structure on a Kossuth County road, Kossuth County will have responsibilities.
Under our, level C road ordinance, under maintenance policy, number 3 is signing, and it says, except for load limit posting for bridges, signing shall not be continued or provided.
Okay.
And it says, all area service level C roads shall be identified with a sign at all points of access to warn the public of the lower level of maintenance. So that should explain the signs that would be required.
I guess my concern is if you have a bridge across the road that's owned by a private individual and somebody actually trespasses and goes over the top of it, is the county liable if they get hurt?
I don't think so, because then it falls
Yeah,
under
but-
trespassing.
I'd like an official opinion on that.
Right, right.
I mean, thinking, I'm
Yeah, I
looking
get,
out for
I
the
get where
county.
you're coming from, but I think at that point
You
it
want me to
kinda,
call Todd?
yeah,
I mean, then he could at least understand the concept of the question we'd be asking
Well,
him.
we need legal opinion on that, for sure.
I honestly think the issue of trespassing would,
But I don't know.
Hey Todd, would you be able to come up to the board?
So open you up to things, so.
Yeah.
We're talking about this bridge on the agenda. Just have a potential legal question here for you, and we're gonna explain the context before trying to, have you research it, if you got a minute. Okay, perfect, thanks.
People tend to sue with the deepest pockets, is
right,
my inks with this.
Yeah,
We better be
figured if-
100% sure that we're not liable.
If we're gonna ask Todd a question,
Yeah,
it'd
I
probably be
mean,
good to explain the
similar
situation.
situation would be is if someone hops a fence and goes into another person's property, steps in a hole, gets injured, is he gonna sue that property owner?
Well, I'm saying
It's
even if
not
you,
exactly the same, Josh.
I know, it's,
because
I mean,
You're
you can
talking
look at
about, you're talking about a private owner. You said steps over a fence onto private land.
Todd,
Good morning.
Good morning, Todd.
Morning, Doug.
Doug, you wanna explain this to him?
We kinda spoke a little bit about it, but.
Yeah, Dick Miller has,
Yep.
right to the, you go east of your house, whatever, a
Uh-huh.
mile and a half. I'll pull up there is a bridge that failed back in the 90s. It was never replaced. Dick lives right here. He also has property to the north. Dick is proposing to the Board of Supervisors to make a level C road out of 165th Avenue, level C maintenance, from his driveway to the north end of the old location of the bridge, and constructing his own bridge on the public road. And the board has questions.
for use of like ATV type, smaller vehicle that he said he would pay for himself. And I guess to summarize it, the, questions and discussion we've been having here is whether the county would still be liable for, if someone trespassed in that area, which would be clear in our ordinance, that would be an act of trespassing. But if they trespassed in there, went across that private bridge, which they shouldn't have been on, would we be liable if that structure failed and there was any issues that arose from that scenario? That summarize it, Roger?
Well, yeah, and you know, if somebody would assume that that bridge would be safe for a car and they drove across it and they collapsed it.
Well, my understanding, a level C road is
gated.
Gated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so they
it's-
wouldn't have access to it.
No.
Unless gates were left open.
Right.
Right.
Or
The signs.
people cut down chains.
Yeah.
But-
Cut the chains.
As a board, we wanna be 100%, pretty well 100% sure that they can't come back and sue the county if there's something that happens.
Well, if you're looking for 100%, you're asking the wrong person.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
never,
There's
it's
no
never gonna
definite in the
happen.
law, that's for sure, as far as that. Only
I think
definite only definite is death and taxes, so.
Yeah.
Another thing to look at as well, I mean, there are responsibilities that will be taken on if there is a bridge on that road. And it does include inspection, it does include posting, it does include if that bridge would fall into that stream and somebody complains about it for obstructing drainage, the road department, the Kossuth County Board of Supervisors will be involved. Cause that is, the jurisdiction of the road is still there. So I think those are issues that need to be taken into consideration as well.
That's Plum Creek, right?
That is.
So from the lane, Dick's Lane there to where?
Looking about right here, Todd,
The north side of the river.
and then I'm making the assumption here, but there is a monument, property survey monument there. And I assume that that's a corner for that piece of property that Dick has there.
Now what are the roads on the north and the south?
There would be 260 Avenue on the north that runs east and west, and then there's 250 Avenue on the south that runs east and west. So we're talking 1 mile of road.
250th Street.
Excuse me, yes, street, 260 Street, 250 Street.
So I presume then at 250 and 260, you'd put road ends?
We would have to put some sort of
yeah.
signs, advance warning, yes.
They're already there as far as that goes for the bridge out.
Well, we would have to say that it's class C also, I'm pretty sure, by the ordinance, our own ordinance and the code that
Probably.
we have to put that in.
The access.
Access, and if there is a bridge, we would have to put bridge postings according to, federal highway.
Yeah, one of the sections also under maintenance in the level C ordinance is that bridges or culverts may not be maintained to carry legal loads. So that is a portion of the ordinance.
Right. Yeah, I can do some research on it. I can tell you that, well, first, we have, potentially some immunity involved, but the reality is that trespassing, doesn't necessarily absolve anyone from liability. Example that pops in my head that doesn't necessarily fit this scenario, but just by way of example, if a person is, burglarizing your home and gets injured on your home, there is a possibility there that you could be liable for that person. Just depends on the scenario. I mean, that's a pretty extreme and strange scenario, but, you know, it happens. So it's not one of those things where it's potentially, an absolute, but, you know, there's always those concerns. Of course, you know, in that type of situation, obviously you have insurance to cover you, but I'd like to get into some of the immunity, especially for construction. You know, the reality is it's our property and always will be. So it's, we want to ensure that at least we have most of the contingencies covered.
So what's the difference in liability if Dick were to build it on his own ground instead of on the county right of way?
Well, if it's on his own ground, then he's responsible for it.
Right.
You know, we're not inviting people down that. Now, the invitation obviously is restricted, but, you know, it comes down to foreseeability, especially in court law. It comes down to foreseeability. Could we foresee someone going around that gate, going over that gate, going through that gate, whatever? I think so.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily prevent people from going down it. I mean, so that's what we'd have to look at.
There is another subsection on 309.57, down at, I think it's 5B. The county and officers, agents, and employees of the county are not liable for injury to any person for damage to any vehicle or equipment or contents of any vehicle or equipment which occurs approximately as a result of maintenance of a road which is classified as area service B or C. If the road has been maintained to the level required for roads classified as area service B or C.
I interpret that as being for the road, but not if it's if a landowner puts a private bridge, it would not fit into that definition.
Because we wouldn't be maintaining that.
Correct.
But if you reference back to our maintenance policy on service area level C roads, the number 5 for structures, bridges, and culverts may not be maintained to carry legal loads. So
That's a Kossuth County constructed bridge that would be in existence when the road was established as level C. Or B, for that matter. Not a newly constructed private.
Well, after that,
structure.
it says upon failure or loss, the replacement structure will be appropriate for the traffic thereon.
Again, that's Kossuth County's decision.
Todd, Doug, has there ever been a private bridge built on a county road?
That'd be a Doug question, I wouldn't know.
We have entered into agreements with people to vacate roads where we have placed culverts, metal culverts on roads so that they could get across them. But part of the agreement to vacate is that Kossuth County will put the drainage structure in, and the people will not object to vacating the road. So we have come to agreements to do that.
But
It
that's,
ends up being a private road, a private.
yeah, I mean, we'd be transferring all of our interest in it. It wouldn't be our property anymore, so that's where that comes into play.
But I'm not aware of any person, a privately owned structure on a roadway. There might be some tile, some drainage things that are under roadways that are privately owned. Some utilities, but nothing to this extent.
Dick, is there, I guess, or are there any reasons why you would not want it to be vacant or vacated by the county?
So the landowners with those access points are not gonna wanna vacate it. Greg Albert said that. He will never allow vacating.
Can we not vacate from
Access point to
access point to access point, kinda like the level C you were talking about, or?
But with the level C, at least the county has to put the signage up, so which covers me somewhat too. Cause I don't want you to just vacate the road and then no gates, no nothing, no, that's gonna be more dangerous.
Well, I would assume, I don't know, Doug, would there, if it is a county road turning into a private road, there would be some sort of signage anyway, even if it was vacated to say road closed or road ends or something.
Those signs can certainly be put up and they can be part of the terms of the resolution to vacate the roads. When we vacate roads, we have, completely removed the roadway, dozed the road into the ditches so that it is, farmed. People with a deed would own to the section line, the center line of the road, so two property owners, if you would vacate the road from a driveway to a driveway, the people on the east and the people on the west, the people that have interest in those properties, they would get that ownership. Now, this with the utilities, even with the vacation of the road, the utility rights are still there.
Sure.
That is part of the Iowa code.
When did the bridge go down?
Say 99?
Yeah,
No, the bridge went down on July 23rd, 1998.
okay.
So what is present now, just a
Showing
road
the video,
closed?
that way you know what,
I haven't been down that road in a
I'll
long
tell you,
time.
this is northbound traffic, Todd.
just zip it right up to my driveway.
So there's Dick's driveway is right to the right, we're northbound,
Oh, okay, so
it's grown in. Not,
so I mean, it's not even, I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell it's even a road.
No, and look north, you can pretty much see what that looks like from the top of the hill down to the bridge as
has
well.
very little traffic on it, yes, that's correct.
I would say I don't think it'd be something someone would be confused by in its present state. It's not maintained to the same level as service area A gravel roads.
So as far as appearance, it appears to be vacated.
So
Even though it's formally not vacated.
Correct.
Correct, yep.
Would
It's
the
just
county be
abandoned at
better
this
off to
point.
vacate that, Doug?
Pardon me?
Todd? Would,
Well, I mean, I don't see that as being, a problem, just vacating it. From his lane to the other side, which, wherever, from the south.
Yeah, I mean,
then we'd have no control over it. What I'm saying, we'd have no,
They would own to their center lines, I assume that's the division,
correct,
section
yeah,
line,
section
center
line, wherever the section line.
So each party would be responsible up to the section line and we're out of it.
right, I'd feel more comfortable vacating it.
We could, like Doug was saying, we could do in the agreement, we could put the signage up in that, or, even, I don't even know.
My question with vacating it, then Greg Albert does have he has half of it. That doubles the keys, then it's not just me that has to lock the gate. If his grandson leaves the gate open, then who's in trouble now?
For
If somebody,
vacating or level C?
if you vacate it, Greg Albert owns and left the road the way it is. Greg Albert then also gets access through those gates whenever he wants it. His grandson or anybody he gives a key to. Now it's not just me that keeps control of the gates. Now Greg Albert gets control to come through that gate, and therefore he can say, well, I can use that bridge too.
Well, the bridge, I would assume would be on the property line.
Yeah, I don't know what the bridge is gonna be on
I
your
mean, I don't know what
property
it would be,
only, or,
it'd be a landowner
yeah, that'd be
issue.
landowners.
After we vacate it, it's none of our
None of our
business, is it?
concern. I mean, you know, you guys would do whatever you need to do to protect your property interests. But you know, I don't see any reason, the way it looks like to me, why the county should even be involved with that property, cause it's not, we own it, but obviously there's no clear road there as far as what I see.
Yeah.
There may be, you know, under that grass, obviously the gravel and stuff, but I mean, the only way that you're gonna be 100% protected in that situation as far as county is concerned is
Vacate the road.
vacate, get rid of it. If you want me to look into this other stuff, I will. But, you know, I think it's just bizarre to me to have, you know, someone do a private bridge on county property.
That's my problem.
That's just the way I mean, looking at it from the county's perspective, why would we do that?
Well, and does the county have any interest down the road with that road with the county? And probably not.
Well, not since '98, obviously. And my concern when I spoke, or actually Doug sent me the emails and, I didn't see it on the agenda today, so I apologize, but the only concern I had when I was thinking about that is what is to the north and what is to the south as far as property owners and how's that used? And obviously they find, and have found since '98, other ways to get and serve their own individual properties, so, I mean, yeah, that way we would be absolved. It doesn't cure Dick's interest as far as making sure that, you know, someone isn't doing something to, that may cause liability, but looking at it from the county's perspective, that would be a landowner's issue, work it out between landowners. Much the same as, you know, a fence between landowners, you know, as far as responsibility. And why is that crossing there necessary?
In the wintertime, they don't move snow. Now with the hog site up there, the guy will come down to my 911 address, cause we use that pond most every weekend, summer and fall. And previously I had to go all the way around the section to move the snow. If I can have a bridge there to get my ATV from there to there, instead of going 3 miles all the way around the section.
If you put that bridge on your property.
I may not own that property in a month.
Oh, I see.
Dad's estate, I may not own that.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's in your dad's estate?
That is correct.
The north side of.
So I will not have access to cross.
Oh, I see. So then you wouldn't have the ability, cause right now you access and it's the county's road, so regardless of what happens in the estate, you would have access to the
Right.
north.
Yes.
I got you. I hear you. Yeah, I mean, that's just the concern I have. And not that it's probably, you know, something that's a grave concern, but, you know, I can't tell you 100% that someone travels down that road by trespassing and goes into the bridge and it falls apart and we let that happen, would we be responsible or liable? I'll give you a lawyer's answer, depends. Depends on a lot of circumstances that quite frankly you can't all anticipate. But, you know, no different than if they're traveling down a roadway and it happens, that's why we have insurance, you know what I mean? You know, to cover those things, but, you know, you won't get an absolute, no matter how much I research, I can guarantee you that. But the way that you would is to vacate the property, and, you know, we can enter into an agreement to kind of minimize some of that expense that Dick was talking about, you know, as far as signage and that, but.
Would it make sense or be prudent to wait until after the sale of the estate to see who the new interested party is there? I mean, along that road, and who would we be working with there as well? In that vacating process or in that road?
But it wouldn't be vacated or the estate's gonna be anyway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think what I understand is what Dick is saying is that he'll still have the property to the north
Sure.
to need access to, and he'll still have his, it's the in-between, right?
Right.
Is that what I'm hearing? So that, yeah, that won't resolve that issue, but it may, I don't know what's happening, so.
We have to have a hearing to vacate that, correct, Doug?
Correct, level C road, a hearing is required as well.
And I'm not so sure the power company's gonna really want it vacated either, cause those poles run right along it. And then we have other landowners that might not want it vacated, so there's no sure thing. Even though
Even if we vacated, the
Could,
utilities still have
easement.
easements.
Yeah,
But they are sent notices, they
Yeah.
are required to be notified.
could we schedule a hearing, and send notices, to have a discussion about this and evaluate our options at that hearing? And, I mean, to some degree, like we do informal drainage hearings, you still notify the same parties, it's just not having a set direction and have more of a informal conversation. Would that be a
Basically
possibility?
laying out two options, level C or vacancy.
We got three
Well,
options.
three
Do
is,
nothing,
yep.
Or leave it as is.
do all three options. and-
Yeah, I mean, just have a discussion with all interested parties, and that, especially by the time you schedule it and whatever, if it's after the estate sale, you would know who that new party is, whether you can get notice to them immediately or not. I don't know if that could be included with the sale, that this conversation would be coming up, but I mean, it wouldn't force us to have a decision at that moment, but it could be a starting point for a conversation.
If that's what the board would desire, that's certainly possible. However, there's no resolution to it, it just kicks the can down the road a little bit further.
Not necessarily, it opens the conversation so you have a direction to go, and
We've
then.
been kicking this can down the road since 1998.
Yeah, I'm not really concerned about having one conversation that doesn't end in a result. I think if we have an initial conversation, you could always have more of a defined direction after that conversation.
What do you foresee being that discussion?
One of those.
Greg Gilbert was in last week. Dick's been in. No other landowners have said anything. I guess the two interested parties.
What was Greg's position on it? I didn't hear you.
Greg needs the road to get to his access on the north side of that
So both
stream.
of the adjacent
That's what he
property
is,
owners.
that's what he's.
But he still has the access.
That's true.
The level C would not interfere with his access point whatsoever.
Yep. And I think, I mean, to some degree, having all the interested parties at the same time in here would be more valuable than here and there. And I guess when Greg was in, I wasn't really asking any questions of him. I don't know that any of us were.
He really wasn't saying much, he was here to observe and that was about it, so. Having him here and having the conversation open, between the landowners and us and.
Was he in at a different time than?
I think he came in after you.
Yeah, he came in after you had left, I believe.
I thought that our discussion of that had been closed already when I left that day. I thought you moved on to another
We were.
topic.
We had, and then I think it came back up when we were having our discussion with Doug, our regular discussions, and at that time he was in here, so.
Yeah.
Whatever the board chooses.
I guess.
It doesn't hurt
I
to
kinda,
have a conversation.
I kinda like what Carter had said about, having something after the estate is decided, that way we know who the next party
Right
is
now
either
there's-
way.
The lawyer isn't even talking about trying to close the estate until at least September or October, so.
Okay, so that
we
may
have
not,
time, but it's,
do you have any opposition to waiting till after that's settled?
I-
Or would you like?
I've got, right now, I have an option on a bridge.
Okay,
If I wait very long, and I don't wanna buy a bridge, an expensive bridge, and then own one that I can't use in September. If you decide to do nothing.
if we have an informal hearing like we do with drainage, is there anything, any timeline that you would have in mind, Doug, or?
I'm gonna be gone, I'd be here next week, but I don't think you'd have time to get in
That'd
there.
be-
But then I'm gonna be gone till at least the very end of August.
Okay, so it would be September anyway.
Perfect with me.
May I ask one question?
Yeah.
I'm gonna explain a situation that has happened in other counties, and it's not happened in Kossuth County. Our bridge inspector goes out and inspects a structure. And he calls me up and he says, this structure has to be closed because it is unsafe. So I close that structure. Then the public comes to the board and tells the board that the bridge inspector, a private consultant, doesn't know what he's talking about. Will the board back that consultant's opinion to close the road?
We hired him for it.
Yeah, I would say we should be relying on that independent opinion, of course, but I don't know that that directly correlates to this because there is no structure there right now.
If there is a bridge built on this road, it will be required to be inspected.
But would it,
It will, if it is over 20 feet. By law, the DOT will have to be inventoried on the DOT. It will have to be inspected. The old bridge was 49.5 feet. Filling in that creek would be a violation of general permit number 14 of the Corps of Engineers. I do not see how a structure could be built shorter than 49.5 feet. So again, will the board, if a consultant calls me up and tells me that bridge should be closed, will the board back that?
Is the
What?
road closed at this time? Is that road closed?
I guess I asked that before and I didn't get an answer.
The road is closed, yes.
When was that action taken? At the February 23rd?
There
meeting?
was a recommendation and the board did not act on it. And in that letter
So,
that you will see, that I'll provide to you, you'll see a timeline.
okay,
And if you want more information, feel free to come to my office and we'll talk about it.
so why would a independent inspector say a bridge would need to be closed? If it is classified as a level C, under our maintenance policy, it specifically says bridges and culverts may not be maintained to carry legal loads. So if it's inspected to carry, and it's rated to be able to carry 1,000 pounds, or 2,000 pounds, or 10,000 pounds for an ATV, would we not be able to post a sign that says that is the weight limit?
We would, but there are times where, due to structural situations that are found during bridge inspections that cannot be seen from a bridge deck going over a bridge, there are things that happen and cause structures to be dangerous. I-94 in Minneapolis. There are bridges that have failed.
Do they have to inspect level C, or do we have level C?
Yes, there would be a structure on the road system, it would have to be inspected.
Do we have level C in Kossuth?
We do not have a level C road in Kossuth County.
Why would
We
you
have level
inspect
B.
something on a closed road?
It is
You say that he would close the road.
because
The road
Kossuth
is
County,
closed.
this is my opinion. Kossuth County has jurisdiction, Kossuth County has responsibilities. And I believe that if I went to the DOT and explained the situation, they would say, yes, you would have to inspect that as if it is a public structure.
So the only way around that is to vacate it.
I believe that is a situation that would alleviate that responsibility.
Right now, what, do they inspect it?
There's no structure there.
Oh, it's completely gone,
Yes.
it's entirely removed. Gotcha.
Well, we've ridden this dead horse for a long time now. Todd, do you wanna give us kind of an opinion sometime in a couple of weeks? Next week, half of them are gonna be gone, so,
Couple weeks.
yeah, in a couple of weeks, give us an opinion.
Liability of the county for privately built bridge on the level C road?
Yes, and then give us an opinion on a vacated road if there's any responsibility.
Well, that I can give you now, there wouldn't be.
There wouldn't be,
We don't know anything.
yep.
We don't own it.
If we have no rights, we'd have no responsibility.
And then we'll talk about scheduling something else if we're interested in doing it.
fine.
Our, I guess, our, ordinance for level C stuff does have the reference to the code section. 309.57, section 12, it does have the exemption from liability in our own ordinance that Josh read earlier, so.
Anything further on this today? Seeing none, thank you, Dick, for coming in.
Thank you guys.
Yep.
Thanks,
Todd,
Todd.
thank you for coming up.
Thanks for the slideshow.
The only thing that I'd like to say is, I don't think it would be fair if, let's say, Greg Alford decides to put an access point from his property onto that piece of road from now until whenever. I don't think that'd be fair to me at all, so that he could claim, well, I need the keys to get down that, so I can get access to my property. Cause at this point in time, he has no access from the points I'm asking for.
Okay. So let the record show that we had a discussion and no action was taken. Thank you. Next thing on our agenda is to review engineer study for the sign placement on P40 and A21. Doug,
Yeah, I provided a report, the board requested a report on the installation of a sign to the west of 1109 470th Street. I used some reference material, manual on uniform traffic control, from the Federal Highway, Department. I also used, the Iowa Traffic Control Devices and Pavement Markings Guidance, and that is from the Center of Transportation Research and Education, and also Sign Effectiveness Guide, which came from Iowa Local Transportation Assistance Program and Institute of Transportation at Iowa State University. And then lastly, I used the Policy on Geometric Design of Highways and Streets, which is an AASHTO publication. I think it's important to talk about warning signs and what warning signs are for. They are effective when they warn drivers of consistent conditions. According to the manual on uniform traffic control devices, the use of warning signs should be kept to a minimum, as the unnecessary use of warning signs tends to breed disrespect for all signs. In situations where the condition or activity is seasonal or temporary, the warning sign should be removed or covered when the condition or activity does not exist. And from the Iowa traffic control devices and pavement markings, overuse of signs, these signs, or placement in non-warranted situations may cause drivers to ignore the intended messages. As far as travel and trying to have the traffic slow down, it is written in the sign effectiveness guide that this type of sign installed next to locations with a playground or something similar did not reduce vehicle speeds at any practical level, that it was likely that warning signs with a more general message, children at play, would have a similar or even less impact. And then again from the sign effectiveness guide. Our office, we determine the available site distance for the location at 500 feet. The policy on geometric design of highways and streets. Available site distance, that is the distance that an object 2 feet above the road surface is continually visible to a driver with a height of eye of 3.5 feet above the road surface. According to the policy on geometric design of highways and streets exhibit, which is included, design speed of 55 miles per hour. The stopping site distance is 495 feet. So the available site distance of 500 feet is greater than the stopping site distance for a vehicle traveling 55 miles per hour. It is my opinion that the playground ahead sign is not warranted at this location.
Kyle, you put it on the agenda item.
Yeah, I saw this 16-page document in our folder. It was put in 4:30 something yesterday afternoon. So I reviewed it last night and I have a few questions. One, looks like this was copied from a previous letter. Was it December 18th, 2006? Was there another issue with a sign at that point in time? Could you provide that letter?
I'm not sure what you references.
The document is labeled December 18th, 2006, and the letterhead at the top has 3 employees that have not worked here for a considerable amount of time. So I was curious if there was another incident or what that was, what the document came from. So but then in regard to the area, I think it was, let's see, well, it's probably easier to read on the computer. I'll have to reopen that because it timed out from last night. The first thing that I was going to ask was, you mentioned that temporary signs should be covered or removed when not in use. That was highlighted. Have we ever removed or covered signs that are seasonal or temporary under section 2C.02 in that manual on uniform traffic control devices?
Nothing I'm aware of.
So why would that be an issue when we have so many other signs that are seasonal or temporary that we have out across the county? Why is this one such an issue?
It is my opinion that these types of signs do not do anything that warn drivers. Local drivers are aware of the situations. Local drivers, for the most part, are driving our roads. So, putting up a sign just allows drivers to get into a habit of ignoring signs. So, the overuse or misuse of warning signs is what I'm trying to avoid. The other thing is that I think it's important that children and parents of children do not have a false sense of security. If they believe that that sign is going to cure something, I don't think it's going to. And they need to be aware of that. I don't know of the seasonal signs that you are referring to.
I mean, we have, no snow removal. We don't remove snow 12 months out of the year.
The snowmobile sign still burning.
Pardon me?
There's a snowmobile crossing sign still burning. Well, that's on Highway 17. That's a state sign.
But does
no
the state
snow
not
removal.
fall under the
Okay,
same
we will.
uniform control?
If you would like, I cannot argue that. However, there is a time where no snow removal signs are used. I hope that people use them. They're usually on a gravel road. I know that there are times where, we just had a discussion where a resident was saying that trucks don't see where a road closed ahead sign that is closed all the time. Don't read the signs. So.
I guess, and then in regards to the distance, in the letter, under this one for 550 feet, it says available site distance 550 feet, and in the picture, it is negligible at best to make out what is there. But then in your letter, you have 500 feet visible, and for 55 mile an hour with 495 feet, that seems pretty close to a margin of error. Someone blinks for a second, that stopping distance is gonna be over 500 feet, or if they're traveling 60 mile an hour, the next breakdown in the chart, 570 feet. At the picture, 550 feet, you're not going to be able to see that. So I think it's a stretch to argue that this is not a justifiable place to have a sign.
I guess regardless, if it's a family that's wanting a sign to warn traffic.
I'm not sure a
As an
family,
elected.
I'm not sure a family has requested this, Carter.
Well, there's a family that's residing there, and it's not, I mean.
I'm not
it could be
sure who
there.
requested this sign.
I'm assuming Kyle gave me to the board was on behalf of the family, I don't know.
I have heard from multiple people in that area, not
Has
specifically
Has
from
the family asked?
the individuals who live there specifically have not. But I have heard from a number of people that have, well, I'll leave it at that. There's been a number of people, if you would like the family to request it.
I've already visited with the family. They talked about all the people that run the stop sign right to the east of their home. They'd like to be able to see that people would stop at stop signs. They'd like to see that to happen. We have stop ahead signs, we have rumble strips, we have stop signs. People still go through that because they feel comfortable. They feel comfortable driving at 80 miles an hour they feel comfortable driving 90 miles an hour. We can't control drivers.
You talked to the family
I did.
about this
We are looking
specifically?
into a situation where we can provide something. In fact, I wanna talk with the school bus superintendent, school bus director of transportation of North Kossuth and get his opinion. We have used school bus stop aheads. I think that this would warrant that.
So if this warrants a school bus stop ahead sign, why
I
would,
said I believe it may. I don't know. We have a situation in the, we have a way of measuring, and it goes along with the Iowa Department of Transportation, the need for school bus stop aheads.
Well, it'd be a good conversation to have with the superintendent and see where that goes.
So you
guess
did,
those-
you did talk to this family on this sign specifically,
I did.
and what did they say? Did they say?
Yeah, they are concerned about their children. I have also expressed my concern with putting up a sign that may or may not that local drivers will obey. That's when it all of a sudden started talking about, they see how people drive through stop signs, drive through intersections, just to the east of their house. That's how that conversation got brought up. I wish everyone would obey every doggone law we have in Kossuth County, in the state, in the nation. Think of the reduction in law enforcement if everyone would obey every law. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. Every rule, if people would obey every rule.
I think we all realize this is not a magic silver bullet. I've said that multiple times, but there's no way to change that. Not practically anyway. So, I guess even your own statements here now with the school bus sign, seems contradictory to what was put in this report. My opinion.
Would it be, I mean, I'm not that family's representative, but would you say it'd be good for Doug to have a conversation with the school board or the school superintendent first? And should they not decide that it would warrant a school bus stop ahead, we can look into other options following that? Would that be acceptable to the board?
Typically, what has happened with school bus stop aheads, either school superintendent or the director of transportation has visited with us. We go out and we review it. We have, it's from the Department of Transportation Design Manual. There are methods and there's justifications. Because the DOT uses that, we use it.
So if they came to you and asked for your recommendation on placing a sign there?
They would request a sign, we would go out and review it, and if it meets the criteria as put forth by the Iowa DOT, we have put it there. Now, school bus stop aheads, they do present issues as well, because again, drivers tend to ignore them. There's a false sense of security. The last thing that we want is anyone being any type of fatal accident on any roadway.
So how do you differentiate between that conversation that you just shared with the school bus sign versus the one you put in black and white?
School bus stop aheads.
Can I finish? That last paragraph in your letter, says, based on the above discussion, little justification for the placement of a playground warning sign west of the reference intersection, as well as any secondary road exists. In addition, adequate available site distance at this specific site. I recommend that an installation of a playground ahead warning site not be placed at this location.
The playground ahead sign is supposed to be put at a playground where a large number of children would be playing. So it's more of a city type warning sign and not a rural sign. A school bus stop ahead sign is put in front of an area where a school bus is actually stopping on a road. So you're talking about two very different signs. What the sign is intended to do, according to the manual on uniform traffic control, two signs with different purposes.
So the school bus sign is not even listed on this document, figure 2C-11. Would another sign be more applicable to this situation? Besides a school bus, child at play, there's
Again,
a variation of different
the
signs.
playground ahead, and that is what, there's some that are children at play, those are designed for playgrounds. It's clear in the manual on uniform traffic control. Those are at playgrounds.
Just, do they have one over here by Gary School?
They have
Where that
several.
playground is
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
signs there?
There may not be, I'm not sure.
I've never really paid any attention.
I'm not sure, but I think there's different variations of signs around there.
You drive around the towns, you'll find it.
Yeah. I don't have a mental note of everyone by any means, but
If we've got a couple families in Vernon that throw one up in their yard, and just as a private person, but yeah. Well,
yeah, I mean, there's tractor crossing signs out in the countryside. There's a number of different signs that are temporary, seasonal, whatever. But it's just on the agenda to review the study here today, so. Those were some of the first questions I had anyway.
Is there any limitation to the family putting out their own signs? Are they not allowed to post signs on?
It would be in the county right away.
And they couldn't on
And-
property.
And it's,
They could on their property, is there any chance of an agreement with the county with this family to allow them to provide a sign to place out there?
Well, that'd be putting that'd be giving almost like an easement to the right of way.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, you can.
I don't think that we ought to start letting people put signs up on.
Right, and that was just, that's why I asked it, if that was even an option to have that agreement, but if it's not, then.
Then the next person will ask to put up a different sign.
Right.
I will continue to work with landowners, the people that live in the house. And
Yeah, I think
when
that,
the conversation is over, I believe both of us will have an understanding. And I believe that they will be satisfied and I will be satisfied, the Kossuth County traveling public will be satisfied. If I'm given the opportunity.
I guess I think the opportunity was given when it was asked initially, so. I don't think the opportunity has been taken away.
your point,
Just saying the opportunity exists.
well, let the record show that we reviewed sign placement near P40 and A21 and we will move on to our next thing, which is gravel crushing, and Doug,
Yes,
you got some quotes?
we requested quotes from Ermeling Excavating, Ready Gravel, Stratford Gravel, and Wright Materials. We received one, quote, and that was from Ready Gravel and Excavating. I have a sheet for you to record if you would like, but I will open that and quote and read it. And this would be to crush at our Hutchins pit, which is on the north side of Highway 18. It's actually we call it Montag pit, but there is a location map as well. And Reading bid $5.50 per ton for the 30,000 estimated tons, 165,000 total.
Oh, that's Reading.
That was Reading.
And that was the only one we received.
That is correct.
Have we probed that to make sure that it's good gravel there? I mean, we know that.
Yeah, we started getting gravel from the east side. There's a little bit of a hill, and Reddings were in there the last time.
Okay.
So they are familiar with it. And naturally, I guess, if we run out of gravel, we run out of gravel. So.
Do we know how much is left in that area after this?
I'll have to make an estimate. I don't know, Roger,
Okay.
right off the top of my head.
The pile, there's still a part of the pile there?
I believe there is some, but it has been, I think it's been 3 years since we crushed anything.
Is someone farming that property there?
That is correct, yes, that is,
McNeese?
pardon me?
McNeese?
No, McNeese is to the east and northeast, I can't think of his name now.
So are we gonna be digging into more of that property where cause I see the area excavated?
It depends on when Reddings get in there,
Okay.
so.
So
I
that
would make an assumption that they'll probably get things, harvested before,
okay.
based on previous.
And that will reduce the amount that they can farm after that point, correct?
Correct.
So they'll probably come in for an adjustment or
Well, we share crop on this one, so.
on this one? Okay.
They get 2/3 of the crop, we get 1/3, so it just depends on what's brought in.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any other discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the bid for $5.50 a yard and $165,000.
Maybe a ton.
Oh, $5.50 a ton, yeah, I'm sorry.
So
Carter,
I'll second.
second by Josh. Any more discussion? Do a roll call vote, please.
Nath,
yes.
Wactor,
Yes.
Stecker,
Yes.
Jerks.
Yes.
All right, we'll get hold of revenues and get that taken care of.
I didn't see any construction in the right of way.
There is no request for construction right away today.
We are up to discussion.
Yes, we do have traffic counting, being conducted throughout the whole county. They're on state roads, they're on city roads, they're on county roads. This will last this week, and then it should be completed. Construction, we do have some work that we are planning to do tomorrow, start tomorrow. It's at the entrance to Woodland Hills. Woodland Hills is a development where there's one entrance and one exit. We hope to discover what is causing the problem. We have pavement that has been sinking there. We believe there is a storm sewer problem where the soil is infiltrating into the storm sewer. The bad thing about it is kind of in the middle of the roadway. We are planning to take one lane tomorrow, see if we can figure out what is going on. We have, and thank you to Chris and Mueller Emergency Management, she has allowed us to borrow one of her signs. We put it up at the, on that intersection. We started it yesterday to warn people that project is going on. We will also have people directing traffic out there as people come in and out.
It's a steep lane too.
Pardon me?
Steep lane to get up
It
there.
is, it is. Resurfacing projects, we expect that to begin August 7th. Clay, we do have our gravel that was crushed, had some clay lumps in it, we did discover. However, with all the aggregate that is being added to that, the clay lumps are not going to be a problem. But if anyone talks about that, the spec is 3%, we had 3.7. It's a new spec, we've never had this problem before, and I don't think that it's gonna cause any problems now. On the bridge project to the south of Titonka, the jetting of those piling, it did allow them to get through the gravelly layer, which is good. So all those piles were driven and they all got their bearing. They're completed spraying thistles in the north third of the county. That has been completed. We are patching, the patching crew has not given us notifying us when they're gonna be back in. Blacktop Service will do that. I'm working on the secondary road annual report. We have a tractor at Casey Nielsen. We had a cylinder that was not firing. There was a wiring harness that went bad, and one of the injectors were bad on that cylinder. We decided to replace all the injectors. That wiring harness, there is going to be a large bill on that. It's a mower tractor. And our mechanic shop, the East Mechanic Shop, we do need a new roof, and I am getting some prices from Northern Cedar Company. They do our roof work, so I did ask them to provide me a cost for a new roof on that. Open positions, we still have 2 at the mechanic shop, the lead yard shop, and we were advertising for an additional person at the transfer station. You guys all received a notice of resignation from our transfer station manager, so we will be trying to figure out what is going on with the replacement there. With the Kossuth Waste Management, I also received notification from Murr Engineering. Murr has conducted groundwater monitoring, landfill transfer station inspection, engineers' estimates for the landfill financial statements, assurances, and corrective actions inspections at our transfer station. They have told me that their work is getting to be more difficult for them and their workload, and if we would like to go to a different consultant to do so. I contacted a contact that I had from Barker Lamar. Barker Lamar did a lot of work for us when we closed our landfill and we opened our transfer station. Barker Lamar is no longer in business. They transformed into a company named Evora, and now they are SCS. But I would like to get them on board to start doing our work for our landfill and transfer station, all of it. They do our compliance reporting, our solid waste commission comprehensive planning. They already do that kind of work for us, so they are a natural fit. So I will be bringing a proposal to the board for that. And then self-insurance, I'm still doing some end of fiscal year reporting for that, getting that taken care of.
Would that be something with the change in company that the Waste Management Association would have to take up at their meeting, or can that be done prior, or I guess would need to be done, or how does that process work?
That's a good question, and the Waste Management Association has, to my knowledge, never really approved any consultant. They've approved the reports that come out from consultants, but, and acknowledged those, but they've never really gotten into that part.
I was just curious.
Sure.
Doug, if you don't mind, would I be able to talk about our conversation we had with Renee Von Bokern regarding union? So I talked to you guys before about having Ehlers and Cooney do all of our HR and payroll together. Renee Von Bokern just represents us for the union. So Doug and I had a conversation, and because Renee's been with us for so long, she understands what's going on with the union contract. So he had asked if she could stay on just to represent the union for him, would make it a lot easier. So I reached out to her and asked her, you know, what she would charge. Her original bill to us was just less than $6,000, and she said if she represents just Doug for the union, it would be $2,000 for the off year this year from 23 to 24. We've already got the bill for this year for $1,000 of that. So, per bargaining years, that would be more, than that, but for off years, it would be, you know, because she's already represented us.
Was it 1,000 for this year that we just did?
That's just half the year, that we got a bill already for 1,000, that's just half the year, but it'll be $2,000 per year. And I thought that sounded fair, so, I just wanted to let you know that we did check into it, and I think that would be fine, as far as I'm concerned and Doug is concerned, to keep her on for that, but use Ehlers and Cooney for HR and payroll.
Did you ask Ehlers and Cooney for a price?
Yeah, I have not got a price back yet from them. Okay. So, I did put in the claim for the $1,000 bill that I have received. So it will be in the next claims for her.
And that's,
sorry, do we need to take any action as far as the board on that, or is that just?
No, it's
the union.
It just comes in as a regular invoice, and the only reason I didn't pay it is because I knew we were looking at changing that up a little bit, so.
And that $1,000 bill is for half of the year going forward?
23, 24.
Okay, if we just have it for the secondary road?
Yes. Here's her email if you want to read her. So Doug and I thought that seemed fair, and that way she keeps representing what she's been doing. Her and Doug have a good relationship, and we don't have to catch Ehlers and Cooney up on that part, but if we would get any other unions in the future, we would have Ehlers and Cooney represent that.
Sure. No, yeah, I think that's fair to secondary roads to continue working with it.
I thought so too. Okay, then I
Do
will
we
just-
have to have a gentleman's agreement that we agree that this is the?
Yeah,
policy?
yeah, I mean, the claim came in, so.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay,
okay, so
Thank
you'll
you.
see it in the claims, next time we claim claims. Okay, sorry, Doug.
No, it's no problem, thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Everyone have a good day.
You too.
want me to go get mine?
Oh, I can go get her. That's all. I need
Or
to
does anybody
exercise.
wanna take a break?
I gotta use the restroom.
What, how long of a break?
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take a 5 minute break. I gotta wash my cup up.
How's Marge today?
Not too bad, how are you doing?
Good. Trying to stay cool.
Yeah.
Hot week this week.
Morning, Marge.
Good morning.
It's an excellent morning, Mark.
It is. It is.
Well, there's no lack of cooling in this building.
No, there is not. You can definitely get chilly in here. That is for sure.
We are all back, so my first thing is BK1, Marge.
Yes. To discuss, survey of the open ditch where the rain had been, just to make sure what needs to be excavated out of it.
We, arrived it was last Tuesday or Wednesday, went out to Bolton Bank and went through the video with Tyler, of the drone flight that was done, and, yeah, I wish we could show the whole board, I mean, hopefully at some point we will, but, some of those images as flying over that, there's a lot gone. And so, we need to figure out what was lost and where it went. I mean, really.
Well, there's places that we're gonna have to fix it's almost gonna go into the right of way of the
Yeah.
farmer that
Oh, yeah.
we're gonna have to look at some.
There, I mean,
I think
especially,
we'll have to have some creative solutions
It's
to these
just-
problems.
it's just solid for a mile. I mean, just gone. I mean, doubling the size of the bank.
Yeah, and I came to talk to Marge on this after seeing some of the video with Tyler as well, but the one thing from our conversation, you can see the visual representation of the sidewalls of the bank from the drone, obviously, but we can't tell how much of that sediment stayed in the bottom of the ditch versus washed down into Humboldt County or into the Gulf of Mexico. So, I had asked Tyler what he thought it would cost, to get like just a couple, flow line shots for surveying per mile, so we had a general idea of how bad the siltation was. And he said it could easily be done in a day, so he figured $1,000 or less. So I guess my thought is I would not want to go into a public hearing without information to know what we're actually talking about. So I think that would be a piece of information we probably should have, especially cause it's not that expensive.
I mean, you can see a lot from the road or just going on the landowner's property a little ways, but looking at the drone flight, it just doesn't ever end.
Yeah.
All the way north of 18, and we were looking at the video, 5-6 miles north of 18, it's still going.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you just can't tell how deep it is without GPS shots.
Right.
So.
The discussion that we're gonna need to have is an estimated cost of repair.
And that's one of the things Tyler said, as far as
We need
knowing what we're doing, I mean, that is a piece of information that would be needed to come to that recommendation or conclusion, but he was only authorized to do the drone flight. So we either need to authorize for additional surveying in this capacity and specify what we want, or do full normal authorization so that we can proceed and get the information necessary for a hearing. But our scope was limited in the beginning, so that's why we need to address it.
And if we're gonna do something, well, we are gonna do something major to fix things, I mean, to repair as best we can. Yeah, at what point do we need to decide who we're working with as far as engineer, as far as who's gonna do the work, and how do we go about that process? I mean,
So I guess process wise,
You're gonna have to have a public hearing.
was there a repair request already?
well, there's a
There's
bunch
been
of small ones.
I know there's several, so. So we could have it on the agenda to appoint an engineer to handle those requests.
Right.
Otherwise,
We just have
a
Bolton Bank
petition.
to do the drone footage, they haven't been hired as an engineer.
Yeah, they haven't been appointed
Right.
yet.
And
for the
Mark, can we accumulate all the requests that are in PK1 that want some things fixed, and then
Appoint an
we'll have
engineer.
to appoint an engineer and have a public hearing. So let's combine what we know, what we've got so far, so that we can have appoint an engineer.
Okay.
We can do that next week.
Can we do it, well, yeah, you can do it next week, that's fine.
Well, we can't do it today.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I won't be here next week, but that's
Yeah.
fine, yeah.
So that would take care of the PK1.
Yeah, I mean, and if we do a full appointment next week, that's fine, but, as far as really proceeding forward with figuring stuff out, yeah.
We better have a public hearing.
Yeah,
before we
we'll
get carried
have
away.
to.
Before we appoint an engineering firm or contractor or anything, would we need to have a public hearing first?
We can,
Or no?
we have enough now to appoint.
With the
With the
repairs.
repair request, we have enough to appoint someone.
Yeah, we would have enough to appoint someone,
Would he?
the challenge of having a public hearing without having information is you bring everyone in and then you tell them, okay, we have a drone video and it looks terrible and
What do
we
you
have
wanna do?
nothing
Yeah,
else. So,
They're gonna wanna know what's
They're-
gonna cost.
Right.
yeah, and to get to that point, you're gonna have to unfortunately, spend more money in the form of an engineer to get more detailed information to get to that point.
Right.
Otherwise, it's confusing and not much information for the people that show up.
Yeah.
By law that we really have to appoint an engineer.
Yep.
Cause we
Right.
know it's gonna be over 50,000.
Oh, for sure,
That's,
yeah.
well, it'll be over the 138 or
25,
whatever that the competitive threshold is now, so I mean, it'll be well over that, so yeah, we have to, it's no brainer, we'd have to appoint an engineer. So yeah, if we have that on the agenda, we could take
Being
action.
that I won't be here next week, then for that discussion of appointing an engineer for those requests, I will say in visiting with every single landowner that I've talked to does not wish to have Bolton Bank as an engineer for that project.
Does not.
Do you have anyone in mind?
That's why I'm stating that. I've not been on the board very long or have worked with anybody else, so I'm just saying that because that's the feeling of the public, that they're upset of how things were done last time.
And the challenge with that
Granted, it is a new engineer, I mean,
yeah,
Tyler was not on that, but.
You're gonna be there the next week.
The following week,
the 8th.
I'll be the 8th.
Yeah, we could just
Put
do
it off
that.
till the 8th, cause I kinda want your
Yeah.
input. Is that
Yeah,
fine,
I mean,
Carter?
would that be okay if I visit
Yes.
with some landowners and see what direction we wanna go and,
Yep,
The other,
I'd be comfortable with that.
Okay,
the other two that I think we use regularly is McClure and
Well, ISG, and then
ISG.
there's Jacobs and Westergaard, and there's
Jacobs.
others around.
we use Jacobs and Westergaard for quite a few things.
okay.
Yep,
they've done some
Those
reclasses
four.
for us, yeah.
yep. So. But yeah, let me visit with some people and we'll take it up on the 8th and appoint.
Why don't you, quite a bit of engineering, why don't you have a talk with Jacob and Westergaard and ISG and
Yep,
get their feelings?
I will. Yeah,
Do
I'll
that.
call Colin and.
Yep.
And
I'd appreciate that.
what's his name with ISG, Spencer.
Spencer.
Spencer Peck,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, otherwise, yeah, sounds good.
So yeah, we don't need any decision today for that then, so.
Change order for number 4 for DD 60 sub 1. I seen it in the folder somewhere.
Yeah.
Drainage. And it's McClure Engineering and Zach Lubenthal, he hasn't signed it yet.
I have the sign, I just
You
put
have the
that in
sign?
the folder, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it's mostly more rock for
right.
the quantities that were actually needed as they went through, and then a few Ts for televising.
So are you making a motion to approve the change order?
Sure, I'll move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Josh? I have a motion and a second on the floor, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimous. And the next next one that we have is pay app 6 for DD 60 sub 1 tile improvement, and that's in our folders. It's also Zachary, you got the signed one over there? Okay. Somebody wanna make a motion to approve the pay app 6 for DD 60 sub 1?
I'll move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Kurt? Any discussion?
Just kinda standard, this is the progress report, so to speak, so.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimous. Anything else, Marge, on drainage? No requests?
No requests?
That's good, keep them off.
I'm looking.
You're doing a good job, Marge.
And you got.
It hasn't rained much in a
You
while.
got all
I got
that
those
paperwork
papers,
for the
yeah.
beavers, okay.
Okay.
Nothing else on drainage? If not, we have our time with our auditor.
Okay, I have a few things. First, we will not have a quorum to meet next Tuesday on the 1st. So, because that
won't?
is, no.
Roger's gonna be.
You're gonna be gone too.
Waverly, yeah.
So, because it's a claim day, I'm wondering if we can reschedule it to Monday? It'll be the 31st, or Wednesday the 2nd.
Mom's been.
Oh,
Don't tell her.
okay, I won't tell.
I think I could do either.
I can do that.
I say Monday,
Monday?
Wednesday, I've got some other stuff on my schedule
Okay.
for my other job, so.
Okay, and it shouldn't matter that it's still
It'll just be the
in
three.
July.
Are we gonna just do claims or have a full meeting?
Well, it'll be a full meeting, but right now, all that's on is claims and years of service award, so I
Okay,
don't think it'll be long. I won't be here Monday, I leave tonight for some medical, issues, but, one of my staff will be here. So we'll do it on Monday then, if that's okay?
Let's do it
yeah,
Monday.
let's,
Just
Okay.
keep it short and.
Okay.
yeah,
Alright, so we'll do that, and then yesterday, we got 42 certified mail envelopes and 42 regular envelopes from Frederickson and Byron. They are all pretty much the same, the only difference is the landowners, and it's a notice of eminent domain proceedings from the IUB. And it's for, I'm guessing, all of the landowners that have not signed easements. I sent a copy of what was in each of the envelope to Tim Whipple. Yesterday, he responded this morning and said that he thought it was just for our information. There's nowhere in here that I see that we're supposed to do anything with this information. I'm guessing each landowner got their own, but I wanted to make you aware of it and show you what we have gotten. I also let Christina from Snyder.
do we have other copies that we can
No.
look
Well,
at?
I have a huge stack and I haven't opened all of them yet. I mean, I have, 42 certified, 42 regulars, so,
Okay,
I only brought one in to, show you. You can come to my office later if you want and look
Yeah,
at them too, so. I just wanted to let you know about that. And then I think that's about it.
Yeah, don't put much on the agenda, I got a meeting at noon with my wife.
Okay, alright,
So I have to get out of here
this-
Monday too.
Can you send us the current list of the eminent domain commission? You get a chance? because I know we made some updates to that a while back, but
But the judge will pick,
yeah, but we have the members on there and that's one of the things in their letter, I just skimmed across. Because that's through the compensation commission appointed by our county.
yeah,
I was just curious if we can get an updated list, I know I haven't seen it for a little while, but
We went through it not that long ago.
yeah, I mean,
in
year,
January, I
I feel like it was
January.
before that.
Yeah. We went through it and reappointed.
I don't think we did it in January.
I think it was.
I think we
were
do
on
it, I think we do it every January. I think
thought
we
We
do.
might have been,
It was
maybe
like
it
one of the
was.
first two
Yeah,
meetings,
yeah.
cause we were,
I'm pretty sure,
cause I remember talking about it.
yeah,
We usually go through it and make sure they're all alive.
oh, yeah,
yeah, I'm pretty sure we did.
I remember something.
It would have been the first meeting, I think. But I can send it to you.
yeah, I'll find it here. Eminent domain commission, yeah.
Okay, so you got it?
Well, it's in the packet here, but
Okay.
yeah, if you could find it and send it in the.
Go to the, if you go to the next meeting, packet, you'd have the minutes for what changes were made.
Well, there probably wouldn't have been any changes.
I think there were, cause I think someone
Oh, that's
was
wages.
gone, we had to, at least one person was changed on there, I think.
I can email you. And that's all I have.
Eric, anything?
I had no meetings this past week, I got care connections and something else in there. Oh, I had a breakfast on Wednesday morning, economic development breakfast. And then I won't be here next week, so see you in 2 weeks.
Josh?
I had no meetings last week, tonight we've got the Emergency Management Commission as well as the E911. This evening, and Wednesday morning, we got, breakfast.
I don't think I have anything that we haven't discussed, CIJDC meeting this Friday coming up, so.
Are you coming with the new building?
It is complete and, functional as of our last meeting, they were operating out of it just before that meeting, so. Just kinda in its infancy, but it is functional as far as I know.
I don't think I had any meetings last week either, so that's good. Anything else to come before the good of Kossuth County?
Remember to drink water.
Drink water?
Stay hydrated.
Yes.
In the next couple of days.
It's gonna be hot.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Carter, second by Josh.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.